Hey guys, Rich here at RCINFORMER.com. Thanks for checking out this video on the Starmax F-18. Today I have a power upgrade for the airplane. Lately I've been flying it on the RC Lander fan, or the metal fan that I got from Hobby King. It's a 1900 kV fan, and it sounds great, guys. It runs real nice. But I think for the Starmax F-18, it'll help it to have a little bit more power, so it gets up to takeoff speed a little quicker, and it'll help with the rotation. It'll help with the vertical performance and the speed as well. I didn't really want to go to 8 cells because that just means heavier batteries and make it tougher to rotate the airplane as it is. So what I've done is I went and got ahead and got this 2100 kV motor. Still runs on 6 cells, but should give us about 11 or 12% more thrust, and we'll turn the fan a little bit faster. I got this from EDFHobbies out of Texas, guys, and it's still, like I said, it still runs on 6 cells, so we'll see. The 100 amp speed controller that's in the plane should be able to handle it. If not, I'll put something else more powerful in it. But this video, I'm going to show you how to take this this metal fan, take the 1900 kV motor that's out of it, and just replace it with this. So what you want to start off with is really just loosening this screw and removing it. You're also going to loosen this set screw and this set screw right here. With the screws removed and loosened, you just go ahead and take this back screw out, and then this whole dorsal fin here, where the air cooling comes in, that's what these 3 holes are for. You're going to just carefully pull that and take that out, and just put it aside. And then very carefully, here's where your hands can get real messy, or probably will anyway. You just kind of carefully pull this whole shroud off. And you're going to notice there's this gray stuff all over here, which is kind of messy. And what it is it's a heat transfer compound, because the heat dissipates through this nacelle, or this cone, and actually through this entire aluminum shroud, so the heat can escape the motor that way, as well as through air cooling. But Hobby King has some of this heat transfer compound, and if you touch it, you're going to get all over your hands, kind of get all over. You're going to get some on there anyway. So, but when reinstalling it, it's a good idea to put some back on. I actually do not have any right now. So, but anyway, I'm going to get some from Hobby King as soon as I can and get some on here. But it'll probably still cool just fine, because it has plenty of air slots through it and so forth. Now that the back of the fan is off, you want to get the front part of it off. And this is relatively simple, but it takes a little bit of doing. What you want to do, before you loosen this front screw to take the spinner off, which is actually I think it's a number 10 Torx driver, you want to index it so you know where to put this spinner back, because it does rotate, it doesn't lock in one spot. So what I did is I took some blue marks and I marked it here, and I marked it here on the plastic and on the aluminum. So when I put this back on, I'm going to know where it's going to go. I'll be able to line it right up and then tighten this back in place, and it still should balance fine. If you don't do it, it's probably still going to balance okay, but you might as well put it back right where you found it, so because they spin balance these things at the factory. So anyway, you remove that screw, take your spinner off. Now, I had previously removed this because this was a pain to get off. For some reason, the guys at RC Lander insist on using red Loctite, which is really hard to get off if you can get it off at all, and they also use it on the motor screw. So if anybody from RC Lander's watching, or Hobby King is watching, it's probably a good idea to start using the blue Loctite, because it's really hard to get these things off. Sometimes you even break the motor screws, and I'll show you that here shortly. But anyway, to get this off of here, as you rotate this, you have to somehow lock the rotor shaft, or the motor shaft. So the only way I found to do that, I'll show you right here on the back of the motor, is what I've done is, you notice there's some flat areas right here. They filed a nice flat here and a nice flat on this side. So what I did is taking the set screw that they put in here, I loosen that set screw and pull this brass wheel collar off, and then using an open-end wrench of some kind, or an open-end adjustable wrench, go ahead and tighten it down on there, and now you have, tighten it on the flat spots. Now you have that thing tight enough, and you hold that. Now you can get this nut off. And once you remove the nut, this whole thing should come off nicely. Now you see it's locked up on me already. Anyway, we take the nut off, we take the washer off, and the whole rotor will come off of there pretty nicely. So anyway, the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and just get this, remove this entire shroud. And it unscrews in two places, here and here. Here it's taped, that just removes the lip. This removes the entire rotor, or the entire cowling. So we're going to very carefully just unscrew this thing. Okay, we can zoom out a little bit now, that's as far as I can go. And we're going to go in there, and here we can see where the cooling fan is. Now this cooling fan was also a serious pain to get off. You can see right here that it has a set screw on this side, and then on the opposite side it also has a set screw. So you loosen those and it's still a pain to get off. But before loosening them, also do the same thing you did with the spinner. I indexed the two of these things, or put some index marks of some kind so you know where it goes back on. And then you go ahead and you unscrew those, and do your best to very carefully pull this thing off, and just put it aside. Now here's the part I was talking about. Again, if RC Lander is watching, Hobby King is watching, do us a favor and you know, stop using the red Loctite, because when I remove this one very carefully, the head of the screw snapped off, and pretty much almost every Lander fan that I've had, that I've ever, you know, changed a motor or done anything with, I've snapped at least one screw off in the motor. So it kind of makes it hard screwing it back on. But we're going to put this motor aside. I'll figure out how to get that out later, hopefully. But anyway, again, RC Lander, Hobby King, if you're watching, it'd be a nice idea to start using the blue Loctite on these things. The next step, guys, is just taking a Phillips head screwdriver. You're going to go ahead and just carefully remove these. And again, you do want to be very careful, because you can break the screw out in there, but you really don't have any control over that. You're just loosening this screw. And that red Loctite might be just so secure in there that the head of the screw is going to break off, and you're sort of stuck with a motor now that has a broken screw head in it. So, but anyway, you do your best to take all four of these off, hopefully without one or two of them breaking, and we'll move on to the next step. With all four screws removed, you're very carefully going to pull the whole motor out and just put it aside. Now you can go ahead and mount the other motor in place. With the motor removed, the next thing you have to do is remove this fan adapter, and yeah, you guessed it, they used red Loctite on it again, which makes it a real pain to get off. Plus, it's also a very tight fit, which is probably intentional from the factory. The only way I was able to get this off is just, you know, you remove these two screws, just get them out of there. And what I did is I took my soldering iron and or my soldering gun, and I heated up this aluminum to make it expand, and then it was much easier to get off. Otherwise, it's on there really, really tight, guys. So probably gonna have to heat it up to get it on there too. But anyway, once you heat this thing up, you can very carefully take it off. You may have to stick a screwdriver under it and very carefully, or some pliers under there, and just little at a time, just work it off and just sort of pry it off. But it was kind of a pain to get this thing off of there, just because it is a tight fit, and they did use some red Loctite on there. But anyway, on to the next step. Before mounting my motor, guys, it's a very tight fit in there, and since I want the heat to transfer well from the motor to the case, I'm going to go ahead and remove this sticker. Now here's an item where I'm going to have to make a small modification to. You notice the shaft on this one is much taller than this one. This one's about 12 millimeters tall, and this one here is about 15 millimeters tall. So, and the problem is that you know, this one fits down in there pretty tight, with only, say, a millimeter or so of space between the fan adapter and the motor. And then this one here will actually sit up much higher if I don't take some of the shaft off. And the problem with that is this whole thing, because the shaft is longer, it actually changes the height of the fan. And what'll happen is the fan will no longer be in these grooves which it's meant to run in. So anyway, what I'm going to end up doing, guys, is with a Dremel tool, very carefully, I'm going to remove about 3 millimeters off of this shaft, just to get it the exact same length as the other one, so it'll fit down and have the exact same fit, so the fan will ride in the same plane that it was riding in before. Here's what the completed motor shaft looks like. I measured up from the case 12 millimeters, and I got this one down to 12 millimeters. It was all the way up at 15 before, so just 3 millimeters shaved off of here. I rounded the edge just to match the other one and make it look the same. And of course, as you can see, I put a flat spot in both sides of this thing. So now it's ready to go ahead and put everything back together again. When you start to put this thing back together, the first thing you're going to do is put on your fan adapter here with your 2 set screws and the flat spots. The only other difference you're going to find, guys, when you reinstall the motor is that the motor only really takes 2 screws. Use blue Loctite and just secure them on. Don't make them snug, but not too tight, because you don't want to break the heads of the screws off. Otherwise, guys, the rest of this thing just goes back together in reverse order. Alright guys, here's the completed fan unit. Looks pretty much just the way it did before, except it has a more powerful motor in it now. Again, just put this thing together in reverse order. A few notes I'm going to make here. The last thing really not left to do is just to just solder on bullets so we can attach it to the airplane. These 2 set screws right here that you put on, one on each side, you want to use some blue Loctite, and don't tighten it too much because it actually bites. You can see here it actually bites into the side of the motor case, and you don't really want to put a dent in there. You just want it to sort of bite into the surface. You can see there's one there too, and that'll keep that in place. I know I said not to use red Loctite, but there is one place that I found that is a good place for it, and that is on the actual shaft itself. When you put this fan adapter onto the shaft, or when this fan adapter is onto the shaft and you're getting ready to put the plastic fan over top of it, there's really not a lot to grip this thing to, and I noticed that there was red residual Loctite on the one that's actually in the motor there. So and what happens is when you put the plastic fan over this, which is the actual blade itself, and then you put the washer, and then you put the nut over top of it, and you start tightening the nut, this whole thing just begins to turn, and the motor shaft begins to turn, and the fan is sitting there staying still because you don't have anything to grip. The old motor, if you remember, has this wheel collar on the back, and it also has these flat spots right here that we could actually grip with a open-end wrench. And then we could go ahead and we could tighten the nut and we could hold on to it. But with this motor, there's nothing protruding out of the back. So in order to keep this shaft or this fan adapter from spinning while the fan is sitting still, I found just a little bit of red Loctite around here. It kind of glues the fan on there a little bit. You should be able to get it off after the fact because there was some on there to start with. But anyway, with that on there, I was able to get the nut and the washer tight enough. There was really no other way to do it because there was nothing to grip. Otherwise, guys, this thing's ready to go. All we have to do is bolt this thing or put this thing into the airplane, and we're good to go. After installing the 2100 kV motor, I took the airplane out to the field and it flew fantastic. I went ahead and left the Banana Hobbies 100 amp speed controller in there because I was only getting about 80 to 88 amps or so on the watt meter, and it seemed like it would be plenty strong enough. But the following video shows you what happens when I use the stock speed controller.
Uh-oh, that's bad. That wasn't you? No, it's dead.
Although the ESC failed for the motor functions, I do have to give it credit for maintaining power to the BEC. I still had control with the flight controls, and I was still able to land the airplane safely. But in either case, I did have to change out the speed controller to a more powerful one. To replace the ESC, you're simply going to remove the plastic retainer from the underside, fit a new speed controller in position, and then using contact cement, just re-glue the plastic retainer to the bottom, as you see here in this picture. Probably 110 to 120, a minimum, is probably what you're going to want to put in there, and you'll be good to go. Okay folks, that concludes this video on installing the 2100 kV Extreme motor from EDFHobbies into a 90mm all-metal lander fan. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it informative. Please subscribe to RC Informer on YouTube, check out RCINFORMER.com, and check out RC Informer on Facebook for more up-to-date information. I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and as always, we'll see you next time.